We got the whole crew here. Okay, guys. So, welcome everyone. This is our fun little meditation discussion time called You Are That Which You Seek. I love this time each week. I think because it gives me time, and I certainly hope it gives you guys time as well to receive some substance that's valuable to you. Not necessarily from me or the words I say, but more so from your deeper self, from your subconscious mind, from your superconscious mind, from your higher self. And ideally, that will affect the quality of our lives moving forward. So the theme for this week is returning home. So that implies that it'll probably be a deep one. But it's more than about returning home. It's also about bringing home back to our experiences, back to whatever we're considering not home. One last thing I can say about returning home that is critical is oftentimes in these meditations, I may talk about things that may seem odd or unrealistic, perhaps, such as time and space not being a fact of reality or a fact of our lives, because from the perspective of the conscious mind, it absolutely does seem like a fact. And I'm not going to say seem. I'm going to say from the perspective of the conscious mind, it is absolutely a fact. So we're not trying to undermine that. That's always a very usable framework. However, there are other perspectives. There are other points of view than just what the conscious mind can provide. And that's the perspective that's seen when we return home. So when we've returned home, things appear differently. They don't look the same as they did previously. So sometimes in these meditations, I jump into the time and space thing, and perhaps that's working for everyone and making some sense, and but also perhaps it's necessary to really first spend some time cultivating that return to home, so that way these what seem like more exotic perspectives will make more sense. So that's the reason why today we're going to focus on that theme, returning home. And one small other thing I might add, if you guys want some theory to go behind this, perhaps it'll help it to make just a little bit more sense while we're in there, is you could say the complete return to home is, which many of you experienced, or specifically I remember describing to me on the online thing here, experiencing nothingness. You couldn't, there were no thoughts. There was no awareness of the sensation of the body. There was no, there was no existence, you could go as far as to say. Sometimes we refer to that as the core of ourself, or pure being, or pure consciousness. You could also call it source, and the implications that the word source has. So, so you could call that non-existence. right? Not meaning it's not happening to you or implying some negative values, but suggesting that the way thought understands existence, that space is not that. So to thought, everything has an apparent existence. But in this deeper state, when we truly return home, that previously apparent existence, it simply is not there. And so from that point of view, looking back at what we previously considered existence, meaning thought, sensation, what we see as the world, those things appear differently. They actually seem like something entirely different. And so oftentimes in meditation, that's the perspective that I'm speaking from. And so if it's not totally quite clicking, hopefully this meditation will help it for you to have your own experience of this. And of course, whatever you guys experience, it's very personal to you. So it doesn't have to be these things that I'm referring to, because all that matters is that you had the time and space to connect with yourself, and your subconscious or superconscious mind always knows what's best for you. So trust that guidance, and with that, we'll enter this space together and see what happens. All right, guys. So sometimes I've heard some people having challenges with falling asleep. If that's the case, I would encourage people to sit up. And if that doesn't work for you, I would encourage people to not let their back be leaning against something. And at the same time, you know what's best for you. And so definitely always choose that guidance. And if you like, feel free to mute your phones so you're not disturbed during this. And also, of course, make sure your microphone here remains muted so as to not disturb others. All right. Feel free to close your eyes if you like. But you don't have to. Because true meditation doesn't require our eyes being closed or open. You don't have to necessarily attempt to silence your mind, because true meditation doesn't require a silenced mind. Although it may lead to that. But to have that as a goal would be to continue to not meditate. True meditation also doesn't exclude any feelings or emotions or sensations for that matter. Even though we may have these deep-seated impulses, push away some aspect of our current experience and try to seek for some other aspect that currently is not in our experience. Even though we have that impulse, we don't even have to exclude that impulse. Because true meditation simply notices what's here and what's happening. In true meditation, there's not an agenda. True meditation, there's not even an intention, as positive as that may be. In true meditation, we're only interested in what is here right now. Or, to say that slightly differently, who you are right now. True meditation is only interested in the entirety of you. And when we say you, be careful. Watch out for the mind attempting to discern what is meant by you. What these words are intending to point us to is just the full letting go and acceptance of what is already here, what is already happening, yourself. We may notice sounds in the background. If so, this is a very powerful point in the practice that can serve us so well throughout our day. Notice the thought, image, or memory that almost simultaneously arises with that sound, attempting to label and describe what that sound is. If you do happen to hear a sound, we just simply want to notice. Notice this occurring, this automatic impulse of thought. It cannot help itself. Nor would we want to stop it. And although what thought is suggesting that the sound is may very well be true at the traditional level, at a more direct level, what that thought would be describing would be the indirect knowledge of that sound. rather than referring to the indirect knowledge of a thought, to truly know what something is, let's just go to the sound itself, if there happens to be one. What is a sound? And this is allowing us to practice fully merging with something. And why this is such a powerful spiritual practice is it gives us a chance, particularly for the challenging areas in our life, to begin to make different choices. Rather than going down the same pathways that we have previously, just because that's what we've always done. That's the way we've always thought. Those are the beliefs we've always had. And in some cases, we may have already identified them as needing to be evolved. Well, this can be a powerful way to begin to make those different choices throughout our day by simply practicing. Instead of referring to the indirect knowledge of a thought and the pathways they sweep us down, let's just go to the thing that those thoughts, the thing itself that those thoughts are referring to. What is a sound? And we ask the question, what is a sound? Not just to get another answer, but to direct ourselves to the sound. What is a sound? Go there. And this is silly to say with a sound, but if you see, there's nothing scary in a sound. There's nothing to be angry about in a sound. Then it might start to make those thoughts that would suggest otherwise irrelevant. Now again, this might seem silly to suggest that with a sound, but we apply that same model to feeling, for instance. Now let's go to a feeling, or an emotion, or a sensation. We'll just call it feeling. Whatever we feel. What you might find is, as soon as we place our attention on feeling, almost simultaneously, a thought will arise, attempting to define or describe what that feeling is. But a powerful point in the practice is, instead of necessarily referring to what the thought, images, or memory has to say, to say that slightly differently, the indirect knowledge of a thought, let's go to the feeling itself. What is really there? What is a feeling? If we're going to make decisions and take action based on these feelings, we ought to know what is really there. What is a feeling really? And again, we ask the question not necessarily to just get another answer, but to invite us to experience it directly, to invite us to merge fully and possibly see it from an entirely different perspective, entirely different point of view, from the point of view of the feeling, rather than the point of view of a thought. And maybe we might just find that there's nothing scary there at all. There's nothing bad there at all. There's nothing wrong there at all. What is a feeling? Even the feeling of our fingers touching something we would call physical, like a table, rather than referring to the indirect knowledge of a thought, which would define and describe that feeling as a table, physical, made of matter. What is the direct experience? What is really there? Go into it fully. Merge with the feeling. With the table as well, you may find that the direct experience of the table looks different than what the point of view of a thought would suggest that the table is. What is the direct experience of the feeling? Go there and see it for yourself. If you go to the feeling of the table, does it tell you it's physical? Do you know that for sure? What is the direct experience? What is it really? Now, if we have went to the direct experience of these things, we might start to wonder, what is it that went there? What is it that we, in fact, brought to the direct experience of something? We know what a sound is. We know what an emotion or sensation is. We know what a feeling is. But what was it that we brought to these things? What is it that we bring to these things to investigate them more closely, to experience them directly? What is that? And we ask the question, what is that? Not necessarily to get an answer, but simply to direct ourselves to it. What was it that I brought to these 3 points? You could call them objects. The object of sound, the object of an emotion, and the object of feeling something. What is it that I bring to these objects? What is that? Now we're becoming more interested in, rather than the objects, what it is we could possibly have brought to them. What is that? Maybe, for sake of words, we could call it the simple fact of being aware, or awareness itself. The irreducible core of who you are. For if there was not an awareness, there simply would be nothing to be aware of. And the most irreducible part of who you are. Now, this is the most powerful point in the practice. Is to watch and see what organically arises without the influence of the guided meditation. Because now that you're established in pure being, in awareness, in source, in yourself, anything that arises looks differently. If you know yourself to be this beingness, then any of the usual thoughts will seem like something foreign. And rather than going down those pathways, we may find ourselves looking at it and seeing there is a choice. That has nothing to do with who I am. This is the perspective or point of view of non-existence. Not suggesting it's not happening, but to suggest that it's happening outside of the way thought, the perspective of thought, experiences it. The way thought experiences existence. This is what is meant by non-existence. go ahead and ask yourself the final contemplative question. What would be most helpful to know moving forward? And allow yourself a moment to either receive the answer or for your mind to formulate it for you. What would be most helpful to know moving forward? Now, after you feel you've sufficiently concluded, whatever your takeaway is, at that point only, begin to bring what it is that you are, pure being, awareness, back to what we call the world. And watch very slowly as it will be birthed as you bring this awareness, as you bring the source back to these objects of experience. And bring this back to the sensation of the body. Bringing this back to our thoughts. Bring this back to emotions. Back to what we see, feel, and hear as the world. And back to each other and the conversation, whilst never forgetting what we actually are. The core of our being. So when you're ready, and only when you're ready, feel free to take in a deep breath and open your eyes.